In this video I'm going to tell some stories about each of the 12 game jams I joined in 2020. Let's go! Global Game Jam. I started my one game a month challenge in January of 2020 with the Global Game Jam. It is an online and in-location jam organized worldwide in January each year. I found a place in my region, so I got there to meet new faces. Definitely a cool experience, but I was a bit distracted by all the movements and noises around me. So not for everyone, but I would recommend you give it a try. The theme of the jam was repair, so I imagined a dried earth that you need to repair by planting trees. I never did an interface game, so I wanted to have a mouse-only gameplay, which led me to learn a bit more about raycasting. I have to admit the gameplay isn't very exciting because there are no defeat conditions, but this is by far the most relaxing game I have ever made. Seven Days Roguelike. The 7 Days Roguelike is a pretty famous jam that exists since 2005. As the name suggests, you have 7 days to create a roguelite of some sort. Another specificity of this jam is that your game is rated by a selected crew who gave you an in-depth feedback. If it is something that interests you, don't hesitate and join the next one. I never did procedural map generation prior to the jam, so it was an interesting but complex challenge. It was also a good occasion to learn cool stuff about navigation meshes. I teamed up with an artist for the environment and the soundtrack. Since the world was a post-apocalyptic city with big buildings, the map generation algorithm would sometimes block the player out of important locations. The issue was solved by simply adding more holes to the buildings. I had a lot of fun designing the map generation part. This is definitely a topic I'm gonna explore more in the future. I also love the voices of the robots.
I see you. No. It hurts.
Quarantine Jam. The theme was a lot of, so I immediately thought destruction. I decided to make a kaiju-style infinite runner where a giant creature destroys a city and eats school buses. I learned some useful stuffs, like item pooling and to create a platypus out of basic shapes. For the soundtrack, I sampled some part of the original Godzilla theme and added a bit of a trap vibe. I can't say this is one of my best work, the gameplay isn't fair and buggy, but I really like the main character. And the thumbnail image never failed to catch people's attention when I show my itch.io page. Scream Machine. The goal of the Scream Machine Jam was to create an horror game with the optional theme Machine. Since I already experienced it for the 7 Days Roguelike, I wanted to try another third-person action game. This time I used Jammo, a free asset provided by the Mix and Jam YouTube channel for the third-person character movement and camera. For the graphics, I picked free models from the Unity Asset Store, except for this cool robot I found online. I also discovered the power of Mixamo. For those of you who don't know, it is a website where you can upload a model, automatically add bones to it and download it back with animations. As I was making my game, I realized the core mechanic was working, but the combats were not fun. So I decided to focus on making the level design interesting. It is more of an exploration game with few action elements. And some of you might recognize where I drew inspiration from. By the way, if you're a fan of horror games, I think there is a good horror community on itch because I saw a lot of jams around that theme. So that might be something you'd want to look for. Ludum Dare 46. A jam that I absolutely could not miss is the Ludum Dare. And by the way, neither do you. For this 46th edition, the theme was Keep It Alive. I started playing around with the idea of hungry customers in a restaurant, I prototyped some stuff, and I fell in one of the typical jam mistake, bad time management. Suddenly I realized there was less than 24 hours to finish and my game wasn't going anywhere. I decided to switch to a really simple mechanic and managed to release the game a few moments before the end of the counter. Turns out it is really fun and I had a lot of encouraging comments from players. I like this very simple concept and I'm gonna explore it more soon. GameDev.tv Jam. This one was organized by an online courses service and the jam started just as I was finishing their RPG course. The theme was time, and since I was playing too much Slay the Spire at the time, I wanted to try a turn-based game. I'm more used to working solo, but for once I teamed up with a pretty talented artist. Unfortunately, we got communication issues and I decided to finish it in solo. I created monsters by mashing parts of animals together and putting a manga-ish shader on them. Regarding the gameplay, I had a hard time trying to make the turn-based combats interesting and balanced without just copying what other games do. In the end, I spent more time brainstorming about mechanics than coding stuff. I'm pretty happy with the result and the mood of the game though. GMTK's Jam. I assume you know about Game Maker's Toolkit. The theme of the jam was out of control. Once again, I tried to join forces with another artist, but I didn't want it to be in a big team. I found someone that seems to have the same interest as me. Or did he? Next morning, I woke up and found the Discord channel that we created for the jam having 5 users. The artist invited some of his friends to participate. Unsurprisingly, the brainstorming phase was a real chaos, everyone having a different idea about what the game should be. I would not say I had a good time, but it taught me a lot about project management and communication within a team. The result is a simple guerrilla rampage game. Of course I wanted to have everything destructible and climbable in the town, but it didn't happen. I'll keep it for my next gorilla game. What I love the most about the game is, of course, the protagonist, the gorilla, and its animations. Just look at him go. GameBoy Jam 8. The limitations of the GameBoy Jam makes it very unique. Only 4 colors, 160 by 144 resolution, and for the inputs only arrows and 2 buttons are allowed. Most of my game being 3D, I was happy to make something 2D for once. I wanted to make a platformer similar to the many I played on 8-bit system years ago, but with a simple gravity inversion mechanic. I experimented with tile-based map creation and found the 2D tools provided by Unity very useful. Also had a lot of fun playing with BFXR for the sound effects and sampling LSDJ for the soundtrack. I didn't have enough time to fine-tune the game, but I like it because it is unique in my library of games. If you like pixel art, lo-fi, 8-bits, etc., this jam might be for you. Ludum Dare 47. Another Ludum Dare, so you know I had to participate. The theme was stuck in a loop, made me think about my long nights on Black Ops Zombie, running in circle for hours hoping to reach wave 40. So I planned for a game with similar mechanics, kill monsters to get money, use money to open new area brings new monsters, rinse and repeat, but with more of a Diablo-like gameplay. And some random events too, why not? But isn't it too much for a 3-day jam? As time was running short, I had to cut off so much of it that the game doesn't even fit the given theme. You know what they say about scoping down, right? I used some assets by Polyperfect that I have bought in an Humble bundle, so the game looks pretty good. I have to admit it is not the hack and slash of the year, but for me it was a fun designing experience. The thing I enjoyed the most was creating the level and placing all the scenery in the abandoned town. Mix and Game Jam. Mix and Jam's Game Jam. If you don't know about it, it's a channel where some bite-sized portion of popular games are remade. I highly recommend it. For this jam we were instructed to mix two different genres. What about a racing game with roguelite elements, I thought. I didn't want to make the same scoping mistake as for the previous jam, so I decided to look up for scripts online in advance. I found one for a car controller, I found another one for a track generation algorithm. Awesome, I just have to make them work together and most of the game is done. But estimating and quantifying how often some mechanics will be is really hard. So yes, the game works as intended, it creates randomly generated tracks for the cars to race, but I would say that the fun factor is not at its highest. Even though the game is pretty rough and buggy, I really like this concept and I think it has some potential. I'm looking forward to expand it one day. Days FPS. The 7 Days FPS is another famous jam that I always wanted to join. Having found precious scripts online for my previous game, I looked up in advance for this jam. When I saw all the gold available online, I decided to spend the fewest time possible on Visual Studio, more game design and less coding. So I took the FPS system from Unity's FPS microgame, added the AI from Emerald AI system, and just slightly modified those scripts to work together, and voila! I felt like a cook having to assemble delicious ingredients to make a tasty dish. And the Western assets by Cinti Studio were the cherry on the top. Also, a musician friend volunteered to create a Western theme soundtrack, and he definitively delivered. Fan of FPSs, you know what jam to join next. Secret Santa Jam. At the time I was pretty exhausted from all the stuff that happened over the past months, but I still had one game to create in order to complete the challenge. It's almost as if I needed a Christmas miracle. For my last jam I found something pretty unique, the Secret Santa Jam. The concept is awesome, you are the Secret Santa of someone else, you read his wishes and make a game especially for him, and then someone else gets you a letter and makes a game just for you. How awesome is that? I thought it was a good way to end this year of jams. In the letter I read, the guy said he likes horror games, so I decided to make an inverted horror game. You are a spider with citizens, grow and attack the city. I tried to create a spider with procedural animations, but as time was running short, I threw away my glitchy spider and switched for a walking script found online. Climbing buildings with the spider is so satisfying, and I love the sensation of growing and becoming more and more dangerous for the town. And there it was, my 12th game of the year. The goal of this video was to share with you some insight about game jams and hopefully inspire you to join some. If you're a game dev looking for a good learning experience, I definitively recommend it to you. Go to itch.io's page now, find an interesting jam and go for it. Okay, I'll stop harassing you now, I think you get the point. So that's it. I hope you had fun hearing those stories. If so, you can help me get some exposure by hitting the like button. This is my first video on the channel, so I would love to hear your thoughts about it. I'm planning on releasing more game dev related stories, so if you're interested, you know what to do. And of course, you're more than welcome to have a look at my itch.io page and to follow me on Twitter. Thank you for listening till the end, and I'm wishing you a year filled with exciting challenges and learning experiences. Cheers!